Mohammed Ayub Khan, widely known as Ayub Khan, was the first native four-star general and the only self-proclaimed Field Marshal of Pakistan Army. He was the first military dictator and also the second president of Pakistan who assumed power in the 1958 Pakistani coup d'etat, serving in office until his forced resignation amid a popular uprising in 1969. Trained at Sandhurst, Ayub Khan fought in World War II as an officer in the British Indian Army. He joined the armed forces of the newly formed state of Pakistan upon independence in 1947 and became its chief military commander in East Bengal. He was appointed as the first native commander-in-chief of the Pakistan Army in 1951 by the then Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan, in a controversial promotion over several senior officers. President Iskander Mirza's decision to declare martial law in 1958 was supported by Ayub, whom Mirza declared Chief Martial Law Administrator. 2 weeks later, Ayub deposed Mirza in a bloodless coup and assumed the presidency. He relinquished the post of Army Chief to General Musa Khan the same year. Ayub Khan continued his predecessor's policy of an alliance with the United States during the Cold War, joining centre and allowing the U.S. and Britain access to facilities inside Pakistan, most notably the airbase outside of Peshawar, from which U-2 intelligence flights over the Soviet Union were launched. He also strengthened military ties with neighboring China, while relations deteriorated with the Soviet Union and India. There was the 5-week war in 1965 with India, ending in a United Nations-mandated ceasefire. Domestically, Ayub embraced private sector industrialization and free market principles, purportedly making the country one of Asia's fastest-growing economies. He built several infrastructure projects, including canals, dams and power stations, began Pakistan's space program, and gave less priority to nuclear deterrence. After defeating Fatima Jinnah in the controversial presidential elections of 1965, Ayub's standing began to slide amid allegations of widespread vote rigging and political murder, proceeding with a peace agreement with India to end the war. Many Pakistanis considered an embarrassing compromise, and demonstrations across the country over rising prices, including those led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, increased dramatically from 1967 onwards. In 1969, Ayub resigned and handed over power to General Yahya Khan, who declared martial law for the second time. Following ill health, Ayub died in 1974. His legacy remains mixed. He is credited with an ostensible economic prosperity and what supporters dub the so-called decade of development, but is criticized for beginning the first of the army's incursions into civilian politics, for concentrating corrupt wealth in a few hands and policies that later led to the breakup of Pakistan and creation of Bangladesh. Early years and personal life. Ayub Khan was born on 14 May 1907 in Rayharana, a village in Hazara district, of the northwest frontier province of British India. He belonged to the Taran tribe of ethnic Pashtuns settled in Hazara. He was the first child of the second wife of Mirdad Khan, who was a Risaldar major in 9th Hodson's Horse, a cavalry regiment of the pre-independence British Indian Army. For his basic education, he was enrolled in a school in Saraisala, which was about 4 miles from his village. He used to go to school on a mule's back. Later he was shifted to a school in Haripur, where he started living with his grandmother. He was educated at Aligarh Muslim University, but did not complete his studies there, as he was accepted into the Royal Military College, Sandhurst. Khan was fluent in Urdu, English, Punjabi Hindko dialect and Pashto. Military career. Ayub Khan managed to pass from Sandhurst and was commissioned in the rank of second lieutenant on 2 February 1928 in the 114th Punjab Regiment. Amongst those who passed out with him was the future Indian Army General Jointu Nath Chowdhury. After the standard probationary period of service in a British Army regiment, he was appointed to the British Indian Army on 10 April 1929, joining the 114th Punjab Regiment Sherdals, later known as 5th Punjab Regiment. He was promoted to lieutenant on 2 May 1930 and to captain on 2 February 1937. On 19 May 1941, he was promoted to major. During the Second World War, he was promoted to lieutenant colonel in 1942 and was posted to participate in 1942 Burma Front. In 1945, he was promoted to colonel and assumed the command of his regiment to direct operations on 1945 Burma campaign. However, he was soon suspended from that command temporarily for visible cowardice under fire. He returned to British-controlled Northwest Frontier Province, and in 1947, he was promoted to one-star rank, a brigadier, and commanded a combatant brigade in Waziristan. After the establishment of State of Pakistan, he joined the fledgling Pakistan Army as the 10th ranking senior officer. He was immediately promoted to two-star rank, Major General, in 1948. Khan was appointed as GOC of 14th Division, stationed in Dhaka, East Pakistan. In 1949, he was appointed as Commander-in-Chief of East Pakistan Armed Forces Command and held responsibility for the ground defense of the entire state. The same year, he was awarded Hilal-i Jurat by Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan for non-combatant service. In November 1949, he returned to West Pakistan and posted as Adjutant General at the Army Combatant Headquarters. In 1951, Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan made Ayub Deputy Commander-in-Chief of Pakistan Army. Commander-in-Chief Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan approved the relief papers of Lieutenant General Sir Douglas Gracey on 16 January 1951 after his term was completed. There were 3 senior general officers in line of promotion for becoming Commander-in-Chief, first general officer being Major General Iftikhar Khan, while others were Major Generals Akbar Khan and N.A.M. Raza. Initially, it was General Iftikhar Khan who was selected to be appointed as first native commander-in-chief, but later died in an airplane crash en route to his senior officers' training in the United Kingdom. The senior-most Bengali officer of the Pakistan Army was Major General Ishfaq-ul Majid, and he was senior to Ayub Khan as well. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Iskander Mirza played an instrumental role in Ayub's appointment. He convinced Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan to promote Ayub Khan to Lt. Gen. and appoint him as Commander-in-Chief. Ayub's papers of promotion were approved and Ayub Khan landed as a Lieutenant General on 17 January 1951. With Ayub becoming the Commander-in-Chief, it marked the change in the military thinking of preferring native Pakistanis and ending the transitional role of British Army officers. The events surrounding his appointment set the precedent for a native general being promoted out of turn, ostensibly because he was the least ambitious of the generals in the line of promotion and the most loyal to civil government at the time. 3 months before the end of his tenure as Commander-in-Chief, Ayub Khan deposed his mentor, Iskander Mirza, Pakistan's president, in a military coup, after Mirza had declared martial law and made Ayub Khan the chief martial law administrator. Defense Minister in 1954, Prime Minister Muhammad Ali Bogra appointed Ayub Khan as the Defense Minister of Pakistan. During this time, his role in national politics began to grow. He served in the governments of Surawadhi, Faroznoon, and Chandragarh. As defense minister, he maintained close ties to President Iskander Mirza, and was endorsed as the chief martial law administrator on 7 October 1958. This was the first of many instances in the history of Pakistan that the military became directly involved in politics. President of Pakistan. After losing confidence in running the government, Prime Minister I. Chandragarh resigned, which led to collapse of the national cabinet. With the support gained from the Republican Party, Awami League, and critics from IC, Faroznoon took over the government by appointing a new cabinet. This alliance nearly threatened President Iskander Mirza because Surawadhi and Feroz were initially campaigning to become Prime Minister and President in the next general elections to be held. The Pakistan Muslim League, led under Abdul Qayyum Khan, was also gaining momentum. These events were against President Mirza, hence he was willing to dissolve even Pakistan's one unit for his advantage. On the midnight of 7 and 8 October 1958, President Mirza ordered a mass mobilization of Pakistan armed forces and abrogated the 1956 constitution. The Feroz administration and parliament were dissolved, and approved the appointment of Ayub Khan as chief martial law administrator. In mere 2 weeks, Ayub deposed Mirza on 27 October in a bloodless coup. After Mirza tried to undercut Ayub's authority by co-opting military officers, the army sent Mirza into exile in England. Subsequently, Admiral A.R. Khan and 4 army generals, Azam Khan, Amir Khan, and Wajid Khan, were instrumental in Ayub Khan's rise to power. In 1960, he held an indirect referendum of his term in power, functioning as a kind of electoral college. Close to 80,000 recently elected village councilmen and local union councilmen in urban areas were allowed to vote yes or no to the question, "Do you have confidence in the President Mohammed Ayub Khan?" Winning 95.6% of the vote, he used the confirmation as impetus to formalize his new system. This was the first of many instances in the history of Pakistan that the military became directly involved in national politics. In July 1961, Ayub paid a visit to the United States, accompanied by his daughter Begum Naseem Aurangzeb. Highlights of his visit included a state dinner at Mount Vernon, a visit to the Islamic Center of Washington, and a ticker tape parade in New York City. Moved to presidential republic, Ayub moved to have a constitution created, and this was completed in 1961. A fairly secular person by nature, Ayub Khan's constitution reflected his personal views of politicians and the use of religion in politics. In 1962, he pushed through a new constitution that, while it did give due respect to Islam, it did not declare Islam the state religion of the country. It also provided for election of the president by 80,000 basic Democrats, men who could theoretically make their own choice but who were essentially under his control. He justified this as analogous to the Electoral College in the United States and cited Thomas Jefferson as his inspiration. The government guided the press through his takeover of key opposition papers and, while Ayub Khan permitted National Assembly, it had only limited powers. Legal reforms. Ayub Khan introduced the Muslim family laws through an ordinance on 2 March 1961, under which unmitigated polygamy was abolished. Consent of the current wife was made mandatory for a second marriage. Brakes were also placed on the practice of instant divorce, where men could divorce women by saying, "I divorce you," 3 times under Islamic Tradition. The arbitration councils were set up under the law in the urban and rural areas to deal with cases of grant of sanction to a person to contract a second marriage during the subsistence of a marriage, reconciliation of a dispute between a husband and a wife, grant of a maintenance allowance to the wife and children. Economic policy. His economic policies were based on the model of capitalism and followed free market economics principles. The industrialization that took place in his term is often regarded as the Great Decade in the history of the country. The Great Decade was celebrated, which highlighted the development plans executed during the years of Ayub's rule. The private consortium companies, industries, and credited with creating an environment where the private sector was encouraged to establish medium and small-scale industries in Pakistan. This opened up avenues for new job opportunities, and thus the economic graph of the country started rising. He also introduced a new curricula and books for schools. Many schools and colleges were constructed during his time. He also introduced agricultural reforms according to which no one could occupy land less than 12.5 acres. An oil refinery in Karachi was set up, and these reforms led to 15% GNP growth of the country that was 3 times greater than that of India. Despite the increase in the GNP growth, the profit and revenue was gained by the famous 22 families of the time that controlled 66% of the industries and land of the country and 80% of the banking and insurance of Pakistan. The education reforms were steadily improved, and scientific development efforts were rising during his years, leading to the world acclaim of Pakistan, where his image was regarded more positive. This policy could not be followed for a long time. After 1965, the economy collapsed and led to the economic declines which he was unable to control. In 1964, the Planning Commission, Economic Minister Mohammed Shoaib, and Foreign Ministers Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Ayub Khan chaired a meeting to discuss the economical assessment of the Operation Gibraltar against India. According to Sardar Bhutto had gone on a populist anti-Indian and anti-American binge during the meeting. Bhutto succeeded in the meeting on spellbinding the ruling general and the president into thinking he was becoming a world statesman fawned upon by the enemies of the United States. When authorizing the Operation Gibraltar, Deputy Chairman had famously told the president in the meeting, "Sir, I hope you realize that our foreign policy and our economic requirements are not fully consistent. In fact, they are rapidly falling out of line." Aziz vetoed the Operation Gibraltar against India, fearing the economical turmoil that would jolt the country's economy, but was rebuffed by his senior bureaucrats. In that meeting, Bhutto convinced the president and the economic minister that India would not attack Pakistan due to Kashmir being a disputed territory. And per Bhutto's remarks, Pakistan's incursion into Indian-occupied Kashmir at Kannauj would not provide with a justification for attacking Pakistan across the international boundary because Kashmir was a disputed territory. This theory proved wrong when India launched a full-scale war against West Pakistan in 1965. The war caused Pakistan to lose the $500 million it had been receiving by the Consortium for Pakistan through the United States. Ayub Khan could not politically survive in the aftermath of 1965 war with India and fell from the presidency after surrendering the presidential power to Army Commander General Yahya in 1969. Presidential election of 1965. In 1964, Ayub Khan, confident in his apparent popularity and seeing deep divisions within the political opposition, called for presidential elections in Pakistan. He was however taken by surprise when, despite a brief disagreement between the 5 main opposition parties, the joint opposition agreed on supporting the respected and popular Fatima Jinnah, the sister of the founder of Pakistan Muhammad Ali Jinnah, as a candidate for next presidential elections. Despite Fatima Jinnah's considerable popularity and public disaffection with Ayub's government, Ayub won with 64% of the vote in a bitterly contested election on the 2nd of January 1965. The election did not conform to international standards per many journalists of the time. Overview of Ayub's rule as president. Ayub Khan allied Pakistan with the global U.S. military alliance against the Soviet Union. Pakistan developed strong economic, political and strategic ties with the United States. This in turn led to major economic aid from the U.S. and European nations, and the industrial sector of Pakistan grew very rapidly, improving the economy. But the consequences of cartelization included increased inequality in the distribution of wealth. Khan also became concerned about arrogance and bossiness of the U.S., who strongly criticized Pakistan for building ties with China. Ayub Khan then wrote the book Friends Not Masters. It was under Ayub Khan that the capital was moved from Karachi to Rawalpindi, in anticipation of the construction of a new capital, Islamabad. In 1960, Khan's government signed the Indus Waters Treaty with arch-rival India to resolve disputes regarding the sharing of the waters of the 6 rivers in the Punjab Doab that flow between the two countries. Khan's administration also built a major network of irrigation canals, high water dams and thermal and hydroelectric power stations. Military and domestic affairs. Khan's domestic policies had heavy impact on Pakistan armed forces, and initially reduced the funding of military forces. His chief of army staff had little interest in the military advancement and was seen lenient towards friendly India. His policies forced a halt to the nuclear deterrence and the nuclear energy projects established under the government of Prime Minister Sir Awadi. The Prime Minister established the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission and launched the effective nuclear deterrence under the auspices of Dr. Nazir Ahmad, an experimental physicist. In 1958, when General Ayub Khan seized the office and imposed martial law in Pakistan, he had limited the research facilities of PAEC based on economic grounds. Overall, the nuclear deterrence remained a low priority to Khan, and his government repeatedly vetoed the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission's proposal to lead the establishment of national laboratories and the growth of nuclear power plants. Because of Abdus Salam's influence on Ayub Khan, Salam had succeeded in convincing him to personally approve a nuclear power plant, against the wishes of his own military government. However, despite Abdus Salam's efforts, Ayub Khan rejected further proposals made by the Abdus Salam and the PAEC to set up a nuclear reprocessing plant in 1968. Foreign policies. Ayub Khan closely allied with the United States and her allies while he publicly criticized the Soviet Union. His first visit to United States took place as he was the defense minister as part of the delegation of Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan, convincing the U.S. along with Prime Minister to provide a military aid to the country. The new defense minister Ayub Khan was obsessed with the modernization of the armed forces in the shortest possible time and saw the relationship with the United States as the only way to achieve his organizational and personal objectives. In April 1958, Ayub Khan stressed that armed forces were the strongest element, convincing the United States that the left wing would gain influence if elections were held in the prevailing circumstances, and that this would not only destabilize Pakistan but would affect U. strategic interests. During his presidency, the Central Intelligence Agency activities grew, with a secret intelligence base, Peshawar Air Station, was leased to the United States. The government officials, ministers including the military officials of Pakistan Armed Forces, were not allowed near the base, and could not dare to enter the base. The station and its activities were exposed in 1960, when Soviet Air Defense Forces S-75 Dvina missile shot down the U-2 Dragon Lady, capturing its pilot near the vicinity. This incident seriously and severely compromised the security of Pakistan, brought the Soviet ire on Pakistan. In all, Ayub Khan had known of the operation, was fully aware of what happened in the Soviet Union. Ayub Khan was in London when the U-2 incident took place, notified by the CIA station chief. Khan shrugged his shoulders and said that he had expected this would happen at some point. In 1959, then Commerce and Energy Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto wished to visit the station, but was refrained from entering the Spy Operations Command Room. Ayub Khan appointed left-wing intellectual Zulfikar Ali Bhutto as the foreign minister, but soon forced him to resign when he excessively criticized the United States. In 1961–62, Ayub also garnered a lot of public interest in the UK, due to his involvement in the Christine Keeler affair. Indo-Pakistani War of 1965. The turning point in his rule was the Indo-Pakistani War of 1965, and it ended in a settlement reached by Ayub Khan at Tashkent, called the Tashkent Declaration. The settlement was perceived negatively by many Pakistanis and led Zulfikar Ali Bhutto to resign his post and take up opposition to Ayub Khan. According to Morris James, for them Ayub had betrayed the nation and had inexcusably lost face before the Indians. Joint defense union with India. In 1959, Ayub Khan's interest in building defense forces diminished when he made an offer of joint defense with India during the Sino-Indo clashes in October 1959 in Ladakh, in a move seen as a result of American pressure and a lack of understanding of foreign affairs. Final years in office. In 1969, Ayub Khan opened up negotiations with the opposition alliance, except for Maulana Bashani and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. However, under increasing pressure from Bhutto and Bashani and in violation of his own constitution, on the 25th of March 1969, Ayub Khan handed over control of Pakistan to Army Commander-in-Chief General Yahya Khan. Death. He died on the 19th of April 1974.